is In the Shadows Podcast. Lots of cigar talk, but if it's going on in the world, we'll be talking about that too. And by the way, the fellas don't shy away from controversial topics. Trust me. So grab that stick, kick back with your favorite drink, and let's do the thing. This is the In the Shadows Podcast. Now your hosts, Tony the Soy Sauce Assassin, along with Albert, Martine, and Eric.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Shadow Smokes DJ in the Shadow Podcast. I'm your host, Tony the Soy Sauce Assassin. And today we had the full house, Eric, Albert, and Martine. And, we'll try to figure out what we're going to talk about today. But it turns out, I guess we were talking about Cuban cigars, right? So let's just do a starting point where we can talk about Cuban cigars. So Cuban cigar, the unicorn of all things in America. And which is kind of weird being someone that's like from out of the country and see Cuban cigar all the time. That everybody first thing is always go to cigar shops. Hey, you guys have Cuban cigars? And then in the shop usually like, no, we can't sell that. Even though you knew that they're not gonna have it. I don't know why you ask, but you ask, do you guys have Cuban cigars? No, and then you start to, start browsing for a New World cigar while you're at it. And the thing about that is, as a cigar reviewer, I hate reviewing Cuban cigars because when you review a New World cigar, you got to talk about the origin of all the tobacco that it came from, right? Like, Nicaraguan, wrapper, this binder, Dominican, and filler. But for Cuban cigars, it's Cuban. There's no blending. Right. Cuban tobacco, and Cuban tobacco. There's nothing to it.
But you talk about origin. That's the origin of cigars, right? Where Cuba is.
But that's the only thing you can talk about, right? Like, this is a Cuban cigar, and the wrapper, binder, and a filler is all Cuban, right?
I don't know. I kind of like reviewing Cuban. So, yeah.
Well, yeah, but the only thing you can talk about is probably how hard it is to get and how it tastes like, and the basic thing. Mm-hmm. But it lost the blending aspect because Cuban cigar is Cuban cigar, and what I heard is that the Cuban cigar taste so close to each other, they literally can just change the band and continue to sell it as other Cubans.
Yeah, that's another story.
Yeah, I mean that's a story. So. We'll go with that, right? So, Albert, what is your experience with Cuban cigar? Let's go with that.
So the first time I went to a cigar shop, this was back in 1990, somewhere in there. I was, 19 years old. And the guy that was in the shop, his name was Richard. And we were talking about Cubans, and I asked him, I asked the typical question of someone who just started off, like you said, and he's like, I remember him saying this very specific. I remember him saying this. He's like, those Cuban cigars aren't what you think they are, man. Because actually, they're pretty crappy. Because some guy will go off and he'll get these Cuban cigars, and then he sits on them forever, and then he doesn't humidify them worth of crap. So by the time you smoke it, or he gives one to you to smoke, it's all dried out and it just tastes like crap, and it's not worth it. He said that's actually probably one of the worst. That he went the negative route for sure, and his points were pretty good. I thought I think they're pretty accurate, because if you think about it, if someone's looking at the holy grail of cigars, or they're thinking of it in that way, and they're now willing to bestow, one of their precious cigars to you, which is a nice thing of them to do, by the way. I mean, it's not a bad thing. It's just, but chances are, if they're thinking that highly of a Cuban cigar, and they're like, okay, now let's give you one, they're probably not somebody who knows how to store the cigar. So he's probably right on, or spot on with it. And I know, many years later, and actually a few years ago, I'd be working in the shop, and every once in a while you'd have some cat walking in with a box of Cuban cigars that he bought from, or had brought over from Cuba from somebody. And the number one thing they were looking for was a humidor because they realized, oh, I've got this investment now. I need to take care of it. And so now they're on the front end of trying to figure out how to store cigars so that they're not going to dry up and whatnot. So it was interesting seeing that cycle just continue, 30 years later, where, what was so great about them. And, people would come into the shop when I was working at a shop and ask if we had Cubans or what we thought, what do you think about Cubans? What do you think? And I'm like, man, these cigars here you get from Dominican Republic, Nicaragua, Ecuador, and these cigars are probably better in a lot of ways than Cubans. There's more flavor or different kinds of flavors. So, I really tried to downplay the hype of it. So that's some of my experience. I'll share some more later, but that's some of my initial experience and how it just kind of cycles through. People still holding out with these Cubans, man, hanging on to them.
It's the forbidden fruit. That's all it is. Just people can't have it, so they want it.
To be honest, they're good. I'm not going to lie.
Okay, so here's the guy who's going to say, oh, Cubans are the best cigars.
Well, we can go with Martin.
say
Martin, tell us about your experience with the Cuban cigar. Like, how did your first Cuban or whatever?
All right. First Cuban cigar that I had was one that I had gotten from James, if I remember correctly. James or Albert, one of the two. And before then, when I had first started getting into cigars, I wanted to experience what cigars were from the very beginning. So it's like, I want to try as many as I can. I want to see what the differences are. Why this wrapper is this way. Why this wrapper is a different way. So Cubans were never really in my mind until years later when I was like, okay, so what's all this Cuban tobacco about? Like, what is so great about it? And then I got one. And yeah, it's a good cigar. It was a good cigar. I don't remember what it was.
It was an Open Master.
Open Master. Okay. So that was... No, I want to say I've had one before that.
And I could swear that one's for
sure.
me. I could swear that I give you one back in cigars.
I gave him one.
The Open Master.
We smoked it at the gas station over there. I gave it to you at the gas station.
Okay. So, I mean, I remember smoking it and I'm like, okay, this is different. It's not the best, but it's good. And that was my experience. I was like, okay, so there are other good cigars, but when it comes to the tobacco, it's just another type of tobacco. Some is good, some is not. Cuban cigars, some are good, some are not. That's just what I've experienced with it.
It tastes like a cigar.
Right.
Okay. Eric, go ahead with your experience.
My experience, I always, when I started my journey with cigars, I always wanted to smoke a Cuban, and I couldn't. And I smoked 1 year later. I forgot what it was. I think it was Monte Cristo. Yeah, or no, it was a Bolivar. Yeah, and my friend went to Mexico and got it for me. And that was the only one that I smoked until I met Tony. He just become a big sponsor for Cuban cigar for me, and I love it. And
okay,
but yeah, to me, it's like you smoke so much New World cigar, right? Mm-hmm. And the holy grail of just smoking, especially the Cohiba Bihique, that cigar was the holy grail for me. And I always want to start it out. And Cuban is okay. Cuban is good, but it is not the best. If you smoke so many, in my opinion, if you smoke a lot of New World cigar, and you toss in a Cuban, like in the middle, it tastes, it's something different to bring to your palate. Right. And you do enjoy it more than normally. So, and my experience is, it sucks that there's a lot of fakes, that's going around. Your
first one was probably a fake from Mexico.
And Why would you say that?
Well, anything coming from Mexico that's Cuban is not real.
How you know?
Because, dude,
They have Cuban cigars over there, though.
you know how hard it is to get an actual real Cuban cigar in Mexico?
But you could get it at an official shop,
Okay, I'm not saying it's not possible, but
right? Yeah.
you don't know
So,
where he got it from.
It might be fake.
Next, you'll be
So
saying,
there's the issue. There's another issue, Tony. When you have a cigar, you don't actually know if it's real or not.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
at
we
the
should
same
talk
time,
about that.
that's when you put the trust in the person who's getting it, right? For example,
Yeah.
shout out to Brian from our Legion.
Yes. Shout out to
He
him.
actually goes
Big
to a
time.
legit shop and then find them, and they're very pricey. I mean, it's Mexico; they're very pricey. So when you find the price not to be correct, then you know it's fake. So you put the trust in that, right? But here's the thing: when we say fake Cuban, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's not Cuban. It means that it's not the
it's still
brand that
Cuban.
they represent. A lot of time, there might be a floor sweeping, they might be left over. They're still Cuban. They're just not the brand that they represent that they're charging for, right?
Yeah, it's not the quality that you're looking for.
So, and then one of my things is that all the Cuban tastes very similar. That's why when we smoke a cigar, we're like, oh, that's Cubanesque, right? Because it tastes like a Cuban, because Cuban tastes just like that. They all have that one flavor-ish. It's just more or less, better or worse, right? More or less, better or worse.
Yeah.
So it's just at that point. It's one of those cigars that it doesn't have a lot of variation other than increase or decrease, okay?
So, Martin, you're saying that if it's from Mexico, it's not real. So what are you saying? Like the Coca-Cola that comes from Mexico, it doesn't have real sugar in it?
That's different. That's Coke.
Hey,
You're talking about Coke and cigars.
Mexican Coke right now use high fructose corn syrup as well now. So
Yeah.
they have two kinds still. They start to have sugar
There you
tax.
go.
So, but that's the thing. You put the trust in the person who actually physically go to get it, right? If you're like, hey, where did you get it? I got it from a shop. This in a really nice box with a glass top and everything. So luxury. Sorry, man, got a fake one, right?
Oh no. I told my friend to, because he does message me at that time. He's like, hey, I was like, don't buy off the street. That's why I tell him, don't buy off the street. Go to a legit place. I don't care how much the price is. Go buy it. I need one, and that's it.
But that's the thing though. When you say go to a shop, go to a legit shop, there's like only one La Casa de Habano in Mexico. One.
Yeah,
So unless you
in
go
Mexico
there,
City.
it's most likely fake, right? But that's not the point. The point is that either way, you're gonna taste some sort of Cuban, just good or bad, right? Good or bad. And in the end, you probably still taste it. It's still gonna taste like Cuban tobacco, because that's what they have. They bought those like bundle roll Cuban and just put the band on it and call it fake, but it's still Cuban, right? So that's one of those things. I personally don't care for Cuban, because I smoke a lot of Cuban before, and I actually think that they are not that good in terms of like variation, transitions, and even quality. I can tell you the quality the previous, let's say 10 years has dramatically went down. It's like, I don't know, every year is just worse than the other. Every year after is worse than the other. It didn't get better, right? And the price didn't get better either. Every year is more expensive.
Yeah, it getting more expensive, man.
Right, so it got to a point where like you feel like that investment is not worth it, because number one, those Cuban cigars tend to mold, tend to have bugs, beetles, and tend to not like humidity. Whereas when you keep your cigars, you got to keep it in certain humidity, and usually Cuban cigars don't like it, right? And at the same price that you pay for one Cuban cigar, you can probably almost buy a box of New World cigar. And that makes you like, is it worth that much? No, they taste so similar that makes no difference.
Oh, you definitely could buy a box with the bihaki. It's like, what, $240 now they're going for?
So, it's not worth the investment. It's not worth, like for me, it's, I'll tell people like, it's not worth to travel to get it. Find someone that has it and just trade with them, whatever. But like I travel all the time. I see them. I don't bother with them. Like I don't really, like, unless somebody asks me to bring them back, I don't really bother with that. Like the funniest thing is that I will go to Japan, go to Davidoff, buy their Dominican cigar, even though all the freaking wall is Cuban. right? Unless I'm bringing something
I'll
back,
say
I
this.
don't really care.
You talk about quality. I was watching a guy on YouTube talking about Cubans, and he's all about Cuban cigars is what his main thing is about. And he was describing the quality of Cuban cigars of late, like what's happening recently with Cuban cigars, with the prices and where you can buy them, and just hard to find, and that kind of a thing. My brother in Europe, he's in fact, I witnessed it. There were two different humidors. One humidor was the Cuban humidor, and the other one was New World. And when I went in, the shelves were bare, and the owner was talking about how he was having a hard time buying them because they're being sent off to other countries, and the supply is not the same. So anyway, going back to this YouTube guy, he's talking about how, and he's describing it too, that he has some cigars and there's blemishes on it that you didn't typically see years ago. Like those blemishes would have been weeded out. They wouldn't have been sent. They wouldn't have been packaged, but now you're starting to see some blemishes on them apparently. And that's because they're just having to sell them. I mean, if they're selling for a certain price, then if they can get that price with blemishes, well then, yeah, they're probably going to go ahead and send things on. Whereas the quality used to be a lot better, is what the guy's saying. So there's something to that.
So I just came back from China, and they sell Cuban cigars there. And I was there. There's literally like maybe $20 total of all the Cuban stuff they have, and some of the stuff like nobody buys. We're not talking about all high end stuff. Some of the like low end nobody want to buy. There was like a bucket of like custom rolled Cuban that was there too, but they don't have a lot anymore. They're like, there's no way to get them because they don't produce that much right now. The whole entire world is having supply issues. Even though they have a new agreement with China to sell Cuban cigars, they just don't have enough to go around. And that's why I always tell people, it's like, dude, if you are going online and go to this online store, whatever the name online store is, I don't care which one. If they say they have enough cigars out there, they have all the freaking sizes, they have all the boxes that they can send you, they are fakes. There's no way they have that many boxes sitting around, whereas the rest of the world is not having enough supply, and they had to sell it to you overseas. You know how annoying it is to send it overseas? Very annoying to send it overseas. And then they had to guarantee you receive it. It doesn't get confiscated. If it does, they send you another one. That's bullshit, okay? I don't care where you get it from. I don't care how Cuban it tastes like. Yeah, it will be some sort of Cuban cigar, but it's not what you're buying, all right? And it's definitely fake. Mm-hmm. It's definitely fake, no matter which online shop. There's no legit online shop that's going to send you Cuban cigar legit, all right? Because the world don't have enough. And you think you can go out and buy a box? You can't even buy a box in a legit shop. So, I always been telling people, I just cannot get this information through to people. It's like I'm trying to tell them that, oh yeah, this is legit because this YouTuber says that this is where he get it from. He trusts this thing and all that stuff too. We're all YouTubers, right? We all know how that works, right? Somebody says, I'll pay you extra money or I'll sponsor you some cigars. You can get cigars. I'll give you 15% off if you tell people about us. We know that.
True.
That's how it is, all right? The cigar is not legit. Don't buy them online, all right? There's plenty of ways to get it. Whenever you travel outside the U.S., just say, I want to go to make a trip to one of the shops, and you'll be able to find it. And when I say travel outside the U.S., I'm not saying that the Caribbean, okay? If you're doing the Caribbean, they are most likely all fakes. I'm talking about Europe. I'm talking about Asia. Those places, they don't have a lot of cigars. So if they do, it's got to be regular, authorized cigars. Because, like for example, Japan, they are controlled by the government. All right, China and Japan, Cuban cigars are regulated by the government. I don't know about Europe. I think there is some sort of regulation, but I don't know if it's price regulator. But in Japan and China, they're heavily taxed because they're regulated by the government. So the price had to be all the same and all that stuff. So because they all pay tax on it, have tax stamps and stuff like that, you know it's not fake. but you know, the in the end, it's worth it. I don't know. Let's go around. Let's see. Albert, you have a lot of experience because James are overseas, and you guys tend to be able to get that kind of cigars and stuff like that. But I do notice that James does prefer a lot of time to get, you know, New World cigars over what he can get over there. What do you guys think? Like when you guys smoking, you're like, you know, do you think like, you know, Cuban is just worth that money? I just love Cuban more. Or do you like, you know, once in a while is okay. He's probably only getting Cuban because that's all he can get kind of thing. What do you think?
I think it's once in a while kind of. I think he's shifted away from the Cuban cigars. Not completely, but the price certainly takes it out of the ballpark for him and I. So about 3 years ago, when he came over to visit, he brought 70 cigars with him, and he searched for a variety of different ones. And even when he was buying those cigars, he realized then that he had to buy when it was available. That if he had waited or gone back, that it would have been gone. So he did find a couple of Talismans, 2017 Talisman cigars. He bought 2 of them. I think he paid $50 a piece for them, or 50 euros, whichever, which, you know, around $50. And we smoked it about 2 years later, 2.5 years later. And it was a good smoke. We enjoyed it, and we had a good time. It was one of these things where we smoked it together on his birthday, actually. It was last year on his birthday. So it was kind of a neat event cigar for him and I. And it tastes a little different than some of the other Cubans that we had. Like I said, he brought me 70, and I made that stretch for about 2 years. So I just smoked maybe one per week or one every couple of weeks. And I gave a couple away or traded a couple. I had the Partagas Solomon or Solomon, whatever you call it. Anyway, I had that. I tend to like the Open Master pretty well, but Monte Cristo, they were okay. Bolivar, like I said, he gave me a whole range. Juan Lopez, those were different. There are some differences in the brands, but yet again, it's very, like you said, they tend to be one-dimensional, so they certainly didn't have a lot of spice on them. And I'll say this, you typically went with shorter, smaller cigars was the norm. And I remember when I visited and we'd go to cigar shops and we'd see the cigars, there was not large ring gauge cigars. If you did, the price was really up there. So I remember seeing around $12, $14 a cigar at the time for Cuban cigars. And, it's cool to buy one and smoke it, and it's a little bit of a different experience. But I also look for other cigars as well that was there, and ones I bought, they brought with me, and those were just as enjoyable as well. So, and cheaper. But so that's kind of been my experience with the cigars. Like I said, I think it's more about flavor, more about variety is what I dig. And you're not going to get that unless you start going to these, other origin cigars and experiencing, what those different blends are. So that's pretty much my experience with it. It was a good experience, by the way. I truly enjoyed it. I'm glad I was able to do that. I'm glad that he took the time to procure all of those different variety of cigars, Cuban cigars for me. I know he spent a lot of time doing it, and that really, made it very enjoyable to. That's why I didn't want to smoke them all inside of a couple of months. I wanted to kind of spread it out, and I'm glad I did. And I still have some Cuban cigars that I picked up over there about a year and a half ago, and I save them a little bit. I try to make sure they're not moldy, and Try to make sure I preserve them the best I can, but I'm not going to hang on to them forever either. I'm going to try to get them smoked whenever, the timing is right. Definitely whenever him and I meet up again, there's a couple cigars that we have on the agenda to smoke together, and we'll pick up new ones as they come along.
Cool. Yeah. So why you mentioned that? You said the talisman is $50, right? And I'm pretty sure somebody can go figure this out. Like I said, it's heavily taxed. When I bought a talisman in Japan, in Azabu in Tokyo, and this anybody who is living in Tokyo, Japan can go check it out. These talisman were $100 a piece, $100 a piece.
Yeah.
So it's a huge difference. Like Japan
when we
taxed
smoked
them a lot.
when we smoked it in February, he was looking online at some different places that you could buy them, maybe, and yeah, they had gone up. It's pretty much the secondary market is what that was. Where the price had gone up.
When I got the talisman, that was 4 years ago. 4 years ago when I went to 4 or 5 years ago when I got it, that was $100 in Japan. Yeah, in the place called Cigar Club in Azabu. So anybody who doesn't believe me can go check it out. If they still have it, we can go ask them. It's $100. So very expensive cigar in terms of Cuban. And that's what I'm saying. Like, when you think about those Cuban cigars, the price range is so high for something that's so. I don't. When you say one-dimensional, I kind of agree. I don't want to offend anybody. I think it's very one-dimensional. The whole cigar tastes the same. It does not have a lot of transition. You got to get all the notes in the beginning, the same at the end. I don't think there is much of a blending technique. So.
Yeah, but you enjoy it. I mean, you can enjoy the thing throughout the whole thing. So, there's nothing wrong with that. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It's just, like you said, you're not getting the variety in the smoke.
And that's exactly where that beginning story was, is that somebody told me that when they went to the factory and then they were banding the cigars, the Cohiba stuff, they're banding it. And all of a sudden they ran out of band. And then they still have a whole bunch of cigar left. And the guy just like, you know what other band do we have? Just put them on. They just choose the same size, different brand, and they just start banding the cigar too. And start to bend them on again. And this is because they taste the same. You can't tell the difference. So long as they have this inventory of Cuban cigar, they just got to keep selling it. So a lot of time you're not even buying what it is, Like, okay, so but he's got those little fan pigtail, and they just go change the cap, Now these are $100 cigars now, So it's kind of sad. I mean, that's what people are buying to. We know that you cannot really do that with New World cigar because they're so blended. Like, the thing you can tell. Not only there's a color difference, there is huge difference in blend. Not this year. This year feels like everything's San Andreas, so you can probably swatch a band and then nobody can tell San Andreas. But I like variety. I like the transitions. I like different blends. It's like if you keep smoking Cuban cigar every single day, especially for those people who smoke every single day, you get used to the flavor and you get bored. But if you smoke a different cigar every single day, a different blend, or even if it's your favorite wrapper but different binder or different filler, it's slightly different, right? It's like eating rice every single day, but you want to change the side dish so that it doesn't taste the same every day. So it's very important for me to, and that's why I ended up liking the New World cigar a little bit more, or a lot more, because the Cuban cigars just don't have that luster of even that luxury or the magic behind the cigar thing. Because when we talk about cigar, there's a magic behind it, right? There's heritage, there's blending, there's craftsmanship, and all that stuff. I feel like the Cuban cigar don't have any of those, right? Right now, the quality is so bad, so there's no craftsmanship. There's no really blending if they can just switch the band and call it the same cigar, right? And there's really no magic to it other than the fact that they're Cuban, especially for someone that's from out of the country, and you can get it all the time. So I don't know, Aaron, what do you think? How do you feel like when you think about the prestiginess between a Cuban cigar and a New World cigar?
Prestiginess. Well, we feel kind of good, kind of high class when you're in the States, right? You get something that's forbidden. And for me is because I'm in a state I could get any New World cigar. I got so many New World cigar that, you just smoke New World. And then that's why if I could travel, if I could only buy Cubans, I will, because I have so many New World here that Cuban would change my whole humidor up, my whole profile up and stuff like that. That's how I feel about it. Just because I live in a state that I could get every New World, right? And it's harder for me to get my hand on Cubans, which it would just change the way I look at cigars when I have Cuban in my humidor or when I smoke a Cuban. I would appreciate it more and stuff like that. And it does, it's kind of like a bragging rights when you're in the States, when you're like, hey, I do have Cubans. I know other people could do it. Other people could travel, but people, not everybody travel, right? And stuff like that. So, like I said, because I'm in a state, I could buy all the New World. I can't buy Cubans. That's why I look at them differently.
You can buy all the New World that's
I'll
available.
say this.
Yeah, which is what? You know what I mean?
Available. But it's not all of them.
Yeah, I know, but you could buy a lot of, tell me you don't buy a lot of New World.
Of course I do. Yeah. But
like 99% of our stuff is New World.
Agreed. Absolutely. So there was a house blend at one of the lounges in Nuremberg that they suggested I try. And the owner suggested I try it. And I look over at James, and James is like, yeah, that's a good stick. So I picked up 2 of them, and it was like $17 for this stick, man. It was like, what the shit? So I bought 2 of them, 2 or 3, I think it was. And then a couple others that I didn't know about or hadn't seen before. And we're not in the Cuban section. We're in the New World section. So this came from another country, and it was a really good stick. I get back and I'm talking to Jeff, who also lives in Germany, and he's like, "Oh yeah, that's a really good stick." So there's a lot of blends you probably haven't tried in other countries that aren't necessarily Cuban. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
I bet there's stuff out there that you could seek and get, and because you're not going to necessarily get it off of whatever boutique shop that you're buying from or local, whatever, because there's so many varieties and brands out there. So, might want to consider that as well.
All right, in terms of rarity, right, Eric? Now you have some Cubans. Now you also have some Chinese cigar.
Yeah.
Which one is more rare? Which one is more rare to you?
The motherfucking Chinese, bro. Them Chinese cigars fucking ridiculous.
Well,
and dude, they taste fucking good.
Right.
They are Cuban-esque cigars to a point of the shit, dude. It's pretty amazing of what the Chinese cigars taste like. Holy crap. It changes everything for me too on that one. And thank you to you, Tony. Like that thing is just, the Chinese cigar changed the cigar game for sure. But the Cuban did too. But the Chinese just fucking surprised the fuck out of me, dude. Every time I smoke one.
So if you think about that, Chinese cigars technically considered as New World.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So New World, anywhere else has
Well,
New World.
No. First of all, no, because I can't get any New World over here that's China tobacco, right?
Or China tobacco, there's still like Dominican seeds or whatever. So there's still Dominican.
Yeah, but there's
tobacco.
China tobacco though.
Yeah,
It
there's
has
still New
some
World.
Chinese
New World is
tobacco,
basically anything that's not Cuban that's blend.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like China. If I could get China tobacco over here, that'd be nice,
Or if you get
That'd be
China
something
tobacco
cool.
over here, it's not China cigar anymore.
Well, yeah. Then that's how I look.
Yeah, but it's different. It would be different,
Yeah,
though.
but just think of it this way, right? Like, would you consider a New World cigar when they source the tobacco from Indonesia, Sumatra, or Cameroon? Just different country, right? Just not Cuban. Anything that's not from Cuba is considered New World.
The thing is, so I could get all those tobacco over here, right? To Sumatra, Indonesia, the Peruvian, and all that. I could get over here. I can't get Cuban.
Right.
And I can't get, right now, I can't get Chinese either.
Yeah, because some Chinese cigar actually have Cuban tobacco in there.
Dude, I swear to God, they fucking put it in there. I swear to God to you, it fucking tastes. I know that taste, bro. And I swear to God, they sneak that bitch in there and they fucking tell nobody. They're like Chinese tobacco.
No, it's not always 100% Chinese tobacco. And we know that, so they don't produce that much. But in terms of like, I think New World has way more characteristic to me than Cuban. And I sometimes I don't understand those people who are super proud. It's like, all I smoke is Cuban. Okay, all right, that's fine. But like that's like saying that all I eat was rice. It's like,
I mean,
Well, but there's people
right?
that do that, right? There's people that do that. There's a video I was watching where it was the Davidoff guy, Davidoff of London, and I think it was Fox. I think it was in the Fox cigar lounge, whatever, in London. And 4 of them were sitting there and, oh, should we get, what should we get to smoke? And, they're all talking about, this certain brand, a certain Vitola, and so they went off and they got it. And then they brought it back, and they're all smoking this Cuban, and they're all thinking it's, they're talking about how great it is and the smell and they were basically sharing an experience together, and they were putting it on video, right? They were sharing it with everybody on YouTube, and there's something to that. There's people that they wear clothing that is old and comfortable, but it's broke in, it's worn in, and so they're able to, they enjoy it. It's pleasurable for them to smoke something familiar, something that has a certain flavor to it, and there's something to that, right? I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing.
When you say that, I saw those videos before though. I thought that very set up though. That's like a setup thing. Obviously.
Sure,
obviously they're not gonna go out and say, yeah, let's grab all these New World cigar. All these people in UK cannot get. Let's do that. No, they're not gonna. They're gonna get a cigar where people can go to that lounge and find. So, I mean,
but they were talking about notes that it was set up. I mean, it was produced for sure, but that happens. I'm guaranteeing.
I'm pretty sure it happens. Like just like we want Cuban cigars over in the US. People in the UK will probably want New World cigars.
Yep.
All right. Well, how many Casacuevas have you smoked?
A lot.
The same Casacuevas. A lot,
right?
And so then you go off and you smoke all these other cigars, and then we all 4 get together. It's like, hey, you know what? Let's try a Connecticut. Casacuevas Connecticut together.
Okay.
Right. And then we are better yet, a Patrimonio, right? The box press Patrimonio. Okay. And then we smoke it. We're like, oh, yeah, this is what I remember. Yeah, it's an experience. So we're sharing an experience together. That happens all the time. All right, and some people I know a guy, he would come in and buy the Reserva Real, right? Romeo and Juliet, Reserva Real, and he'd buy a box a month. And he would smoke 1 cigar per day with his wife. And his wife stopped smoking, but he continued to come in and get the box. And he would smoke around her so she could smell it, but she couldn't smoke it, but she at least could smell it. And that's just something he enjoyed. And it was something he repeated.
I bet he enjoyed it because she could smell it. Because like, yeah, here you go. Here, smell it. Oh, that's so enjoyable. Too bad you're not smoking it.
I think she had some health problems because they're older guys. But she would smoke with him. But now she's not able to smoke, but she wanted him to continue to smoke it. But every day they'd smoke a cigar together, same cigar. And he would come in and buy it, that same box. And so it was, so the owner continued to have that in stock for him. Would never price them, put them on the shelf. They're always up top. They'd wait for him to come in. They'd get there's a little ritual that the guy developed. He'd pull out $200 bills. There it is. And pay his price and go home. So it's there's a ritual aspect to it. There's a familiarity, and so people were doing that. Good for them, man. I mean, there's a lot of people that do that.
Yeah,
a lot of people.
Okay, for Martin. So for you, right? Since you don't smoke a lot of Cubans. For you, do you enjoy reviewing a Cuban cigars compared to a New World cigar, or is actually the other way around? You rather do a New World cigar versus Cuban?
I mean, there's nothing really one that I favor. It's it's kind of like I'm reviewing the cigar for what it is. And whether it's New World or Cuban, I'm going to give you the real review, whatever that may be. And it's more of just trying to figure out what the tobacco is and trying to figure out what the notes I'm getting. But there's not one that I favor more over the other. No.
But how can you figure out what a tobacco is when you're smoking a Cuban? That's just Cuban tobacco.
I mean, yeah. When you're smoking a Cuban tobacco or a Cuban cigar, of course you're going to get more. You kind of know what to expect. Like you get milder notes, you get very little pepper, if any, creamy notes, woody notes, and that's pretty much all you get. I mean, you can say that if you're smoking a 100% Dominican tobacco cigar like an Opus X, you get like the woodiness and a little bit of creamy, but with some pepper also. So they have their differences, but I think I enjoy more grabbing a New World cigar, not knowing what the tobacco is right up front, but being able to research it and knowing that this might be better than the last cigar I had.
Given that we all smoked maybe a handful of Cuban cigars, have you guys ever watched a YouTuber or YouTube video about Cuban cigars and you go like, that's full of shit? Because I have a lot of time. Oh, yeah. I'm like, that's not what it is. You guys hype it up so much. That's bullshit. You know? Yeah. Have you guys have that experience?
It's like they're trying to look for flavor notes or something to make it better than it actually is.
Right. I mean, there are some people that's like, oh, this thing tastes just like a Cuban. He's like, oh my God, did he just say that? You know, have you guys had that experience? Because I had quite a few. I'm looking at it. I'm like, did this guy get paid?
Well, there's a lot of pressure, right? They probably only have one cigar and they hit record. So they better come up with something good. Because they can't redo it, right?
Oh, shit. Oh, fuck. That was a good one, Albert. I like that one.
Yeah.
But
that sounds like that happened to you, Eric. I'm just saying.
But oh, fuck, dude. But no, like, okay, that don't just happen with Cubans, though. It happened with New World too. Like when they overhype it, they think it's the fucking best thing fucking come after sliced bread. You know? And a lot of them, like, okay, maybe Albert is right. He's fucking excited for that one cigar that he have, and he fucking just got this one chance to look for fucking crayons in there. You know what I'm saying?
I gotta bring crayons into this motherfucker. Asshole.
You know what I mean? He got to dig deep, dark inside of his fucking palate to fucking look for a note that is not there. You know?
Yeah, a lot of time I found that you know, I see a lot of, I guess, US-based reviewers, and then they review their first Cuban or something like that, and they go like, "Oh my God, this thing's the best thing ever!" And then it starts name some notes that you're familiar. That's fine, and then they start naming something that you never heard of, and you're like,
what?
What are you tasting? Like, what is that thing you're eating? You know, and it's like, well, you sure that you're smoking a Cuban cigar? That sounds like a supermarket.
Well, maybe because he only had New World, right? He'd been smoking New World, and Cuban just hit him like a truck, you know? It's like, damn, all right, something different. It's something that I haven't tasted, because like we always say, Sony, Cuban have that note, that specialty note that they have that every single Cuban have. Mm-hmm. And maybe they never tasted before. They're like, God damn, what is that shit? You know what I mean? Like how am I gonna fucking describe that to the viewers of that specific note? So yeah, just because they've been smoking New World and they're like, holy shit, what the fuck is that?
And the reverse is true though. There's some people like smoke a New World cigars like this. I swear to God, tastes just like a Cuban. If I just take the band off and give it to someone, they will say this is a Cuban. I'm looking at
Cuban.
The video like, oh my God, did somebody say that just tastes like Cuban? This person must have never tasted Cuban before.
Were they smoking a Perdomo?
They might have, but you never know, you know, because there are some people that does that.
No, I mean, yeah. Shit.
They might have. I don't know. You know, but what I know, I have not smoked cigar for 32 years. I don't know anything about that.
Yeah, no.
I just know that some people, does come, when they try to make a short video or something like that, they pull the information out of their ass. You know, I tend to not know the information. I'll be like, hey, let me look it up. And I'll tell you, I'll read exactly what's on there for you guys because I don't know the blend. I'll tell you exactly what it is and I'll tell you what I taste. That's it. But there are some people that just like that. I don't know, somehow has the more information about the cigar that not even the blender themselves knows. You know, it's just like us, okay? Just like me. All right. I could swear to God, La Ronja has citrus in it, but no, there's no citrus in it. So what we're going to do, you know? So,
hey, man, La Ronja, just a sweet cigar, man.
It tastes citrusy to me.
I don't get sweet.
I mean, we even asked Eric
cigar
Espinosa, and he was saying that he didn't get any citrus from that damn cigar.
I can understand that, but at the same time, you also asked Steve Saka. He swear that the cigar is not sweet.
Exactly. Yeah, and we all know that's a lie.
So
that's a straight up damn sweet cap, fucking dipping sugar.
Right, so like I know we're supposed to go with what the blender or the owner says, but sometimes you have to take it with a grain of sugar.
That's all. Yeah,
I like
that's a
that
good one.
That one was nice.
Yep, that's true.
Right, I mean you can't really deal with that. And here's the thing, I think this episode primary goal is to tell people Cuban cigar is there to enjoy, but it's not that special, I guess. Yeah. Is that our kind of the meaning behind this thing? Because I think that they're out there. Yeah. They're just another cigar, though, right?
I think that's I feel like that's a consensus. Cigar, right? I mean, most of us have smoked. I mean, all of us have smoked a Cuban cigar, so I feel like it is. There are some good ones, but there are some bad ones also. So it's like it's a different type of tobacco that you're experiencing. And if you've never experienced that before, grab a couple different ones because they all taste slightly different. They all have a similar type of taste, but you have to, it's like New World cigars. You smoke different ones to see what you like.
Yeah, and just like Eric said, this Chinese cigar that's even better than Cuban. So
yeah,
that's the damn right shit, man. Surprisingly, fucking China made. Fuck out of here. High quality China made, motherfucker.
Hey, they'll start to try to do better. I guess tobacco industry.
The construction is good too. That's really good, dude.
Yeah,
I feel like the construction is really good because no one's really buying Chinese cigar in China. It's a very expensive hobby. Not everybody can afford it. If you think about this, average Chinese people's salary is $100 a month.
A month. Yep.
A month. So if you buy 2 or 3 cigars, here goes your month.
Yeah, pretty much.
Right. So no one's really buying it, so they can, in a way, slow down. Produce just as needed, sell them for extraordinary amount of prices. They jack up the price. If you ever go to one of those Hong Kong, Macau offshore casinos, they sell it there, and they sell it at a very high price. And surprisingly, they have buyers. They have buyers that goes around the world to buy cigars and resell it in those casinos.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so you can actually find New World cigar, Cuban cigars, Chinese cigars. All over the world cigars in those casinos because that's what they sell. But you expect to pay a lot of money for it because they will buy it at the price that is being sold and double it and sell it to you.
Second market
at the casino. Yeah, it's like wholesaler. But they do it, and then you can actually find those. Now, in terms of Cuban cigar places you can buy Cuban cigars, let's talk about that. Number one, you can travel. So you can travel to Europe, you can travel to Asia,
or
you
Cuba.
Can travel to Canada. But let's rewind a little bit.
Canada.
One thing about Canada is that they already have those plain band policy. So if you got your cigar, it's gotta be plain band, not cool. You kind of lose part of the things you pay for, packaging. So if you go to Canada buying that, expect that your packaging is gonna look like turd, and you gotta pay quite a bit of money for that. But I think Europe is probably the best place to get them. in terms of Cuban cigar. Because if you're in Europe, not only can buy in stores, you can also there's also some online shop that sells legit Cubans in Europe that are safer than, you know. And I would say anything that shipped from like Switzerland and Hong Kong, just ignore that. Right? Switzerland,
Dude, a lot of
all those places, just ignore
a lot of them coming from Switzerland.
Yeah,
A lot of
definitely.
website. Yeah.
Yeah. And you can also get them on Asian cruise ships. You can get them Asian cruise ships. So
Really?
yeah, some cruise ships that travel between China and Japan, Macau and Europe, they have some Cuban cigars on there. Not a lot, but there are some. You can
Okay.
go to.
I'll say this
Yep. Go ahead.
about Europe, or at least Germany, for example. It seems like the commerce rules are pretty strict for a lot of things. The quantity of drink you get, like if you buy a half liter or half liter of Coke, for example, then they have to give you exactly half liter. So if you put ice, if you're asking for ice in your drink, they look confused. They look at you like, "What are you asking? Are you wanting me to break the rules by putting ice in the? If I put ice in this cup, I can't give you your half liter of Coke." It's almost like they get perturbed with you. They get angry with you. Not angry, but it gives them a dilemma because they're required to do things a certain way because those are the commerce rules, right? And I think that stems way back to like the Middle Ages where they really had all these punishments and stuff. If the baker wasn't giving you the full ounces of dough or bread, to make the bread, then they had punishments for these people if they cheated the consumer out of what they were supposed to do, right? And so the commerce there's a lot of commerce rules is what I'm trying to get at. And so I think if they're saying this is a Cuban cigar, there's a really super high chance that it's probably a Cuban cigar. Or if and the price you're going to pay on it is the same price you're going to pay everywhere for that cigar because it gets taxed on the price that they say it's worth. It's not. It doesn't get taxed on what the seller says they can sell it for. So here, shops can set the price of whatever they want. But over there, if this is a $13 eye of the shark, because that's what it costs them to import the Toro Fuente eye of the shark, then you're going to buy that thing for $13. But if they say it's $39, right? I can buy it for $13 here in the States, but they have to pay $39 because that's what they imported it at, and that's what they taxed it at. And so for them to sell it cheaper than $39 over there means that the government's not getting their tax money for it. So there's a lot of oversight when it comes to commerce, and at least in Germany that I'm aware of. I mean, that's how I understand it, at least. And there's probably, like I said, there's probably a really good chance you're getting the authentic thing if they're saying it is.
Albert, just a quick question though. When you go to Germany, do they have Subway, like fast food Subway?
Trying to think if they do.
Are you trying to get the footlong thing, huh?
Yeah, because their footlong is not footlong. They will be fine.
Right. Yeah, you can't do that. Yeah.
And also that drink with the ice thing, they don't have to give you ice in the drink. They can give you ice on the side.
I know, but I'm just telling you, man. It's you see the look in their face, like what do you want me to do?
Was their soda not refrigerated to start with? Like, don't they refrigerate their soda? Don't they have a soda machine like a fountain?
Oh, I think they do, yeah. And you know what? It's refrigerated here as well, right? But the way we do things is we will buy a 32 ounce or 30 ounce cup, right? We'll fill it up with ice and put 12 ounces of drink in it. That's what we do. That's what Americans do, right? That's what we do.
And which is fine because we're obesity is crazy thing. Plus, that's part of the recipe according to Starbucks. Ice is a recipe.
Right. It is.
Right.
Ice. I need ice in my drink, man.
I need ice in my drink. Yeah, I need ice in my drink. I need to refrigerate. Nobody wants a lukewarm, 80-degree soda. That's just weird. But yeah, back to where you can get Cuban cigars. I mean, if you travel, you definitely can get them, right? And here again, I will say, and really being honest, okay, if you travel to a place that has Cuban cigar, buy one, smoke it there, call it a day. Buy one, smoke it there, call it a day. Enjoy it while you can, call it a day. Don't get into like, oh my God, I need to buy like 10, 15 boxes to put at home. It makes no sense.
No.
At least I would, if I travel, at least one box.
Well, that's the thing, and now it become a burden to upkeep with it, and that's that. And then it really when you get that much and bring it back and start smoking it regularly, it loses its magic. If you want to keep that magic there,
You don't. You keep it. You smoke it once a week, once a month, something like that. You pull it out. Like
what it end up is gonna be is that you gotta keep that box and never smoke it. Don't bullshit me.
Yeah.
Oh no, smoke it, man.
To some old, then it goes back to what I originally said, what Richard said, is that you got this dried out, crappy cigar, man. You talk really good about it. You give it to your buddy, and your buddy's like, "This ain't that great."
That sounds like somebody that sent me dried ass cigar.
Well, it happens.
Massachusetts is a dry place. Here's the thing: if you buy one of those boxes, what's gonna end up is like 100 years later, your kid's gonna find it and says, "Hey, I found a 100-year Cuban cigar, and it's dry. And it's Can I save this?" And you bring it back to the humidor, start to humidify it, and smoke it. That thing tastes like shit. You don't want that to happen. So, you want something.
But dry cigars they smoke better.
They burn
man.
better.
Think about
they
it.
burn better. But at the same time is that you don't get to enjoy it as much as you think. When you are at the place, do the things that's meant for that place at the same place. Here's the thing: when you bring cigar from one place to the other, they taste different.
True.
Right? That's true, right?
Yep.
So if you go to Europe and you smoke the Cuban cigar there, and you enjoyed it, it does not mean you gotta enjoy it by the time you flies back here. It could change, right? So why not enjoy the best thing where they belong? Enjoy the best thing where they belong is probably the best way. The only reason I bring the Chinese cigar bag is because I can share it here, because I could smoke that every year when I go back there. I don't have to.
Like when you have a box, right? You could share, you could trade, you could do this, you could do that. It's more fun, right? And then if you want to enjoy it, you can too.
I'll say this: when James came back for his birthday, and we smoked that Talisman, I was actually relieved that I didn't have to sit there and babysit that damn cigar, those cigars, for much longer, right? For something to happen to it or it get screwed up, whatever. I'm like, man, I'm glad we can finally smoke this thing.
Because they're costly.
They're
costly. So like when you keep a cigar, and let's say if you keep a cigar long enough, like anything damaged at all, especially the Cuban cigar, they get beetles. They do.
Oh, dude, they crack so easily, too.
And the beetles don't just destroy that one cigar; it destroys everything around it. So is it worth it? I don't think so. I really don't think that. And then you got to be devastated when you find out that your Cuban cigar does not like 65% humidity, and it start to plume, quote unquote plume. Yeah. And then you see the surrounding cigars start to plume. You're like, yes, all my collection is pluming. No.
Yes.
You're not gonna be happy about that.
What's worse than beetles is the Beetlejuice.
Dot. A lot of dots.
Yep.
A lot of dots.
Yep.
Yeah. Question mark.
Half a beetle. That sucks too, by the way. A half a beetle. Yeah. You don't want that.
Like, and here's the thing, right? Let's say, your Cuban cigar does not have beetle hatching out of it, but Cuban cigars tend to have live beetle eggs. Do you really want to smoke those?
Yeah. Right. We all smoked at one point.
Well, we smoked the dead beetle eggs.
That make it better, right?
Oh, yeah, of course. Hey, what's better, eating a live chicken or eating a dead chicken? Do you eat your chicken egg raw or cooked?
I eat I'm half raw.
No, raw or cooked.
Wow.
Cooked.
Yeah, there you go. Would you rather eat a maggot that's cooked or maggot that's raw?
Well, the raw one have more protein in it.
So you gotta eat the raw one?
I don't eat maggots, so I don't know.
Right? I'm telling you, you gotta eat it cooked, right? At least that's dead and not gonna move around and not gonna have any chance of like.
It's not cooked. It's just dead.
No,
it's
you don't
cooked,
know.
So it's just it's rotten meat.
Oh, but that's different, right? Let's say if you're smoking it and that heat actually hatched the beetle while you're smoking it and just ran through that cigar into your mouth, you won't even know about it.
I don't think that would. I think the heat is way too hot for it to fucking hatch.
Yeah.
It would just die. It would just die.
No.
Bro.
So like if you smoke in the beginning of the cigar, right? It's heating up. No, it has this 800, 400, 200, 180, you know? And once you get to 80, they're like, oh, I'm out. Yes, let's go. It starts to run like a lava behind them and run through the cigar. Go right into the mouth. Right? You know, you don't know.
Yeah.
Then you know what you're like, oh, that's just
Then you're spitting out tobacco.
Yeah, you're like, what's this tobacco bits? I can't get out of my mouth. What the hell? You know, next thing you know, you got beetles, and tomorrow when you test your blood, you got high cholesterol. Anyways.
Is that what happened to you?
No, I had a barbecue in Texas. I came back with high cholesterol. No, I haven't eaten for days, motherfucker.
Oh my god.
Oh shit. Anyway, so I think that's 1 hour for us. I hope everybody enjoyed this small conversation about Cubans. There is no definition of what good cigar really is. Everybody's different, right? So some people's gotta really stick with Cuban cigars. Some people's really gotta stick with New World. I personally favor New World, and I think I'll continue to favor New World unless Cuban cigar changes, which I think will be very amazing if New World cigars start to have blends with Cuban cigars. That's not Corojo.
Man.
That is not Corojo. Right?
I'm just saying, like, if Cuban leaves start mixing with New World, holy damn, boy, that's a whole new freaking blend.
Right now we have Corojo, which is kind of like a way of doing that, right? But like I'm talking about legit, not weird tasting Corojo. And maybe like maybe other places continue to develop new things. I mean, it's a hobby, right? The hobbies, the part of this hobby is to try new things, right? Which comes to, again, make me question those people who smoke the same cigar over and over again, a single cigar over. I think that when you smoke the same cigar and nothing else, that's not hobby anymore. That's addiction, in my opinion. So, for those people who smoke the same cigar, like the story Albert's talking about, only one same cigar, enjoying that only one, I think that's addiction. So instead of the hobby.
Well, it could be heritage though, right? I mean, that's again. I saw this other video where this lady was talking about how she would have people come in and buy a box, and she'd offer them some different, well, what do you suggest? And then she'd give them some options, and they say, well, you know what, I'm going to go with what my grandfather bought, and they'd buy the same Vitola, same blend and everything, and they would store it, and every time they went to the shop, they'd get a cigar from their box that was stored in their humidor. So, there's that
I wouldn't
too,
call
man.
that hobby, right? If you think about this, can you say my hobby is to eat, but all I eat is raw chicken?
That's not healthy.
No. I'm just saying one thing, right? All I eat was boiled chicken. That's the only thing I eat, but my hobby is to eat. Right? You wouldn't be like the hobby of something is to try a variety of things within that hobby, and that makes a hobby. If you're doing the same thing over and over again, that's addiction. So
I think you should start doing that, Tony. Eating boiled chicken is good.
I eat boiled chicken. In fact, I ate some today.
It's really good. If you dip it with fish sauce or soy sauce with pepper
that's not boiled chicken anymore. That's sausage chicken.
Oh my god.
Yeah, exactly.
I think just dip it in.
My
sounds like a new topic.
Yeah, that'll be a new topic. Let's talk about food next time. All right, let's talk about raw food next time. Anyway, that's it for today. I'll see you guys next week, Sundays, same bad place, same bad time with these folks. Bye, guys.
Peace.
See ya.
Good night.
It will be good morning.
You've been listening to the In the Shadows podcast. There's nothing like a fine cigar, and that's our passion. And on the show, we'll talk about everything and anything cigars. And you know what happens when you get a bunch of guys together smoking cigars. The conversations go on. And that is what this show is all about. We hope you've enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to like, rate, and review. Remember, everything you need is on YouTube at Soy Sauce Assassin. The live show is every Wednesday and Saturday at 9 p.m. Eastern. And get cigar reviews. Wishing you long ashes. We'll see you next time on In the Shadows podcast.